Let's do so what?
Can we skip that one?
You don't want to do it? So what? Yes. Huh?
Yeah, let's do different too.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Let's do record me.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll start it.
I'm not going to do the normal intro. Let's just make one up.
Huh?
The normal intro.
Yeah, the normal intro. Yeah.
I don't know it.
Oh, okay. Me and them will do it then.
Okay.
Yeah. What's that?
I'll play the last name.
For an intro. Okay. Man, you sound great, man. Really nice playing.
Killing,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm over here like
You
dusting
too,
up. Yeah, I've been jazzing a lot in a while now.
I was hearing those Herbie chords, man. I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah. I might get out of the way of the podium. But I mean, wherever you want to
I
start.
think we're doing chill here. Yeah, just in case, right?
Test 1, 2. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. You know what? I know how to get them started. Phil Pace used to let me sing to him in the car. And so, what we're going to do is to do a little gospel song that he loved for me to sing. It's real short, it's real energetic, but we're going to do something right now. Put your hands together like this. I left my sins behind me down by the riverside. I left my sins behind me down by the riverside. One Sunday morning, dipped me in the water. Heaven got the news and God sent the order. I left all of my sins down in the riverside. All right. This is great. I have forgot to introduce someone who is with us today, Director Gary Bryant of the Metropolitan Board representing Foothill MWD. Yeah, all right. We're going to go ahead and recognize also our great musical group. They are known as the Jack Keller Group, the trio playing this wonderful jazz for us this evening. Put your hands together and applaud for their great performance they're going to give for us today. Yes. And I would like also for everyone to pay your attention up front. And I know you guys are eating. I know the cannoli is delicious. And I know I'm looking good. I get that. I know that's why you guys are looking. But I want you to know this, that it is my pleasure to introduce to you the artist of the hour. And this young man is the person that put together the portrait of Phil Pace in the boardroom. And he's also responsible for the mural that you're looking at here in the cafeteria. Years ago, I had the opportunity to work with this young man and commission this artwork to depict the origins of the Metropolitan Water District, how we've come along, and how it brought water into Southern California. So at this time, put your hands together, would you please, and welcome Eloy Torres from Pasadena. He worked, combined realism and synthesis to produce allegories of the human experience. His unique style and body of work distinguished Torres as one of the great painters to emerge from the Chicano movement. Eloy Torres, come forth. Attention, please. Attention. Eloy Torres is approaching.
Still looking for that young man you were talking about. But anyway, it was a fun experience doing the mural. A lot of the characters in the mural are people that I know, and kind of wanted to make this kind of a time travel experience. When people saw it, actually I have some of the native people that were here before, and little fun elements to it. Here's a little girl who's looking for her baseball, and it's across the bank, and somehow there's this Native American presence that she becomes aware of for a brief moment. So there's some aspects of surrealism, and I'm hoping other dimensional qualities to it. But yeah, so I don't know what else I can really say about it, but that's about it. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing it, and it's great to incorporate friends and personal friends and family members. Well, not actually family members, but all mostly friends. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to practice something right now. Take your hand and raise it up like this. Raise your hand. Everybody raise their hands. Are you able to raise your hands? Can you all do that? Way in the back, can you raise your hand? Hello, hello. Raise your hand. It's very important. With his right hand, I promise to tell someone that I love you. One person today, tell them that I love you. It's very important. A message from Phil Pace himself. So with that, we're going to try and quiet down and retain our energy until we get through the program. Because at this time, it's very important that you receive former director Larry Dick from MODOK. Larry Dick, come forward, please.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, Phil, speaking ahead of time, when I left the house this morning, I was still a director. I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm absolutely delighted to be here because of my relationship with Phil Pace. Those of you who know me know that I often take shelter behind a laugh or a joke or a story that I think is funny. But in this instance, out of regard for Phil Pace, I have left those stories out. I wanted to make sure that what I said conveyed the way I feel about Phil Pace. So I'll say that we gather to commemorate the memory of Philip Pace, a man whose unwavering dedication and leadership left an indelible mark on Metropolitan. We shared a bond beyond work. We were both in those Midwest flyover states. He was from Ohio, I was from Missouri. That practicality has helped shape us both in profound ways. Phil's parents, practical to the core, encouraged him to learn that cobbler trade, to have something to fall back on before they would bless his attendance in college. He loved trains. When you went into the chairman's office, there was a wall of trains. And I found that very impressive when I had my first meeting with him. I was visiting my brother-in-law in South Texas, and I went and I found an antique B&O Railroad conductor's badge. And I bought it. I brought it home and I gave it to Phil. Now, he might have had 27 of those things in a drawer somewhere. I wouldn't doubt it. But he acted like I had given him the key to the kingdom. This is the kind of man he was. He embodied the spirit of it's more blessed to give than to receive. I gave him that badge and I walked away happier than he was. That was a gift that he had as well. He led during a time when the water world was going through some tough stuff. He wouldn't be pushed around or muscled by the state or the unions or other outfits. And his journey was defined by a relentless pursuit of what was best for Met. As a board member, he guided through pivotal moments with a steady hand and a clear vision. And one hallmark of his tenure was his aversion to raising rates, a principle deeply rooted in his care for the community. And under his watch, he held them down, demonstrating his ability to balance the books without burdening the people we serve. My first personal experience with Phil was a resolution that was signed in Orange County about conjunctive use, which provided a marvelous safety and reliability for our part of the world. It's a vivid reminder of his strategic mindset and knack for seeing the bigger picture. He had the rare ability to see goals clearly, understanding that the light at the end of the tunnel was just that, and he wasn't blinded by it. He approached challenges with wisdom and pragmatism, always keeping the well-being of Met at the forefront of his decision-making process. He was also a canny negotiator, a trait that often brought some insight to the most complex discussions. I recall one time we were in the midst of some litigation with Cadiz. Bill looked at it, thought about it, and said, maybe we should just buy them instead of going to court with them all the time. And he really did give it some serious thought and evaluated it. He had the ability to cut through the noise and offer practical and innovative solutions. Beyond his professional achievements, you know he was a devoted family man. You've seen his lovely family here today. His warmth and generosity and moral compass earned him the respect and admiration of all who knew him. As Lincoln said in the Gettysburg Address, the world will note nor long remember what we say here, and that is true for what happens today. But the significance of Phil's life should be remembered. And he should know, as Lincoln said, the weakness of words pale in comparison to actual deeds. And Phil was a man who provided actual deeds. As we dedicate this boardroom, we commit to upholding the principles he championed for integrity, dedication, and the pursuit of excellence. Let this be a place where his memory inspires those of us to lead with the same wisdom and compassion that he exemplified throughout his own remarkable life. Naming that boardroom in Phil's honor is a fitting tribute and a lasting reminder of the countless hours he dedicated to the deliberation and strategic planning for this district. This room will forever reflect as a beacon for his hard work. I cannot say enough about how happy I was to be asked to say a couple of words about Phil Pace. Thank you for listening.
Well, that was an exercise in gymnastic voice and sound. One of the things I want to ask of everyone to do, if at all possible, if we could hold it down a little bit. I got a couple more speakers for you. In honor of this day, it's very important that we honor with silence as our speakers are speaking to honor this day. And one of the things I forgot to tell you, by the way, is Phil Pace, when I was coming up, wanted to know what I wanted to be when I was a little boy. And I told him I wanted to be a handsome jet pilot. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And he looked at me and he stepped back and he said, well, you struck out on both counts. As only Phil Pace can deliver, what can I tell you? Our next speaker, and I want you to put your hands together. Shh. I want you to put your hands together and welcome a longtime board member and friend, Glenn Peterson, retired board member from Las Virgenes.
Thank you, Gilbert. I think you could have been a pilot. I served Phil Pace as his vice chairman through his 3 terms. Phil didn't like to travel. He really didn't like to get on planes and go places, and so he had me do all of his traveling. So I ended up being at the QSA signing at the Colorado River. He wasn't there. I was on the QSA negotiating committee also for him and the Cadiz negotiating committee. He had me go up to the Horseshoe, which is in the governor's office, his favorite governor, Governor Davis, and negotiate the QSA, which was 1 month. 1 month I had 21 days in which I worked for Met. It was a long time, but I did enjoy doing all this for Phil. But Phil wasn't the perfect person. He bought Phyllis for Mother's Day a washing machine. He never ever bought a washing machine for Phyllis again on Mother's Day. He heard it really from her. This I want to talk to the Carmelites. If you can hear me back there, good. So Phil, one of his projects has always been the Carmelites and his love of them, but he took them to Diamond Valley Lake and he needed some help. And since I was in the business, he decided to have me come along. And it was nice. There was a bus full of nuns, and young and older and all kinds. And all of a sudden, the Mother Superior, somebody got up to the microphone and started doing a litany. And I thought, oh my God, 2 hours of this. Holy Mary, pray for us. Jesus, pray for us. St. Joseph's, pray for us. And then she says, St. Patrick, and they all said, give us green lights. So they also used to use his cabin in Arrowhead, and they barbecued his. They had a barbecue there, and they ended up barbecuing his balcony. But he was very kind about it. He also had a story about Ricardo Montalban, the actor. He said that Ricardo Montalban said to him, he says, Montebello, which is Spanish. And Phil said, no, you'd get killed in this town if you called it Montebello. It's Montebello. It's Italian. And he was really strong about that. He also, as you all know, loved trains. He had the opportunity to get on a train from Eagle Mountain and go to the Salton Sea. And actually, it wasn't a train. It was a truck they put on the train track and drove. But he had me come along, and that was a very interesting experience. I remember we were at one conference, and he saw a train set inside in the place, and he bought 3 of them. It was a Christmas train. And I was thinking, I know what, probably you have it. The children probably have the Christmas train. He bought 3 of them, so he was a very, very kind, generous man. He loved woodworking. He woodworked for kids a lot, made a lot of toys and all. And one day he came into the board, and he was complaining about his finger or his hand. And he had used the automatic machine, and he actually stapled himself, and he didn't know it because the staple was in him for a week. And but he ended up going to the doctor, and he was fine. I was a winemaker, and I made pretty good wine, and he marveled at it because he said his grandfather and his father were winemakers, and they were awful. He said he never ever had an Italian wine made by a person that was any good. And he says this was good wine. So that was nice of him. my last thing I'll talk about is my sister lived in Italy for 4 years, and she came back and she taught me this saying, "Porca la miseria." Now, doesn't sound really great. It means the miserable life of the pig. But I said it to Phil one time, and he said, "Where did you hear that?" He said, "I've heard that's my dad used to say it." And it means the miserable life of the pig, but in reality, it means woe is me. What a tough life. And Phil had a wonderful life in my mind. So I would always say to him when would leave, I'd say, "Porca la miseria," and he'd say, "La miseria veramente," which means also, it means yes, indeed. So thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, for that. And now we're going to hear from a great friend of Phil's from the city of San Fernando, remarks, Hugo Mejia.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I served under Phil from 2000 2004. He was the chairman through my whole tenure, so that's always been the Phil Pace boardroom. So I'm glad they put the name up there. Um, Phil, when I first joined, he assigned me to a couple of committees. I was new to the water business, and he was a great mentor. I was overwhelmed, but kind of starstruck with the folks that were on the board. And so he really lined me up and teamed me up with the folks to help me understand the business, really bring me up to speed quickly. And he always had an open door policy. He was super busy and always had time to mentor us. The other point is passion. He was passionate about his family. He was passionate about his community. But I realized he was also passionate about building things. And one year he gifted me a pin stand that I still have. Has my name. It has felt that opens up. You can put business cards in there. And he made that himself. That's when I realized how talented he was with woodwork. So that was his passion. I think it was also maybe his stress release. But it was very generous of him, and I still use that today. So I think of it when I use it. And then last, as everyone's mentioned, I think Phil is original foodie. When we talked, a lot of times we talked about restaurants. He would make recommendations to my wife and I on where to go, and we still go to those places. If Yelp was around, those were all 5 stars. So to me, Phil has always been a 5-star guy in what he directed us, what he did, and the person he was. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Now we have the pleasure and honor of bringing forth a longtime former employee of Met and a director of Met, and director from Upper San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District, Mr. and Central Basin, that's right. You've been all over the place. Charles Trevino, come forth. Put your hands together.
Good man, thank you. And by the way, I just want to mention that when I first got hired in Med, I believe in '83 or something like that, Gil Ivey was the senior HR person. He processed me for my job, so that when I got hired,
That's right.
remember that?
That's right.
So yeah, Med has been like my second home to me. I have known Phil Pace for over 20 years. It's an interesting story that how Phil and I connected. I ran for Central Basin Water Board in 1994, and Phil Pace had a person in that race named Ruth Aldaco, who was the mayor of the city of Commerce. So we won. You remember that? And we beat Ruth Aldaco. So I don't know if Chuck's still here. Chuck had a field rep by the name of Rachel Crook, who took over Chuck's position at the school board. Rachel says to me, "You've got to meet Phil Pace. You got to meet Phil Pace." Yeah, he ran Ruth Aldaco, supported Ruth Aldaco, but you know what? You got to meet him. Went to meet him, and I was very impressed with him. Very, very impressed. What you hear about Phil Pace, kind, what you see is what you get with Phil Pace, and I love that. You know, there's no BS, there's no running around. He'll look at you in the eye and say, "This is what this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do," and I like that. You know, we're missing that now in society. Um, so, long story short, follow a couple of months later, Gary Morse, who represented Montebello on the Central Basin Board, says, "I want to appoint Phil Pace to the Metropolitan Board. Do I have your support?" Representing Central Basin. I don't know if you remember that. You remember that, Gil? Yeah. So we got the votes, and we appointed Phil Pace to Central Basin. I mean, to the Metropolitan Board, representing Central Basin. So 3 years later, we decided to support Phil Pace to be chair of the Metropolitan Board in 1998. So we put the campaign together on behalf of Central Basin. West Basin had their own candidate, and we were sister agencies. As Virginia Grivian, you probably heard her say that we were agencies that shared staff. Anyway, long story short, we prevailed. And if I can just say that the rest is history. It's the best vote I ever took. I've been in the water business as an elected director 30 years. And in my 30 years, I've never, ever felt so proud of a vote as I voted for Phil Pace to be chairman of the Metropolitan Board. So, Phil, I love you, brother. So my comments are very brief. I just want to say to you, I'm glad for the opportunity. I'm glad for the opportunity to say a few words. Thank you very much. To my colleagues here at Metropolitan, keep up the good work. As an employee, as your fellow employee, as a director, this agency, I'm very proud of it. It's my home. And Phil Pace made it seem like home. Phil Pace really loved this agency. Phil Pace loved the people here. And that's an amazing legacy. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. One thing is very important. No matter how tall you get, how big you get, how rich you get, or even how poor you get, if you don't think the people around you that helped you, you're in for a world of hurt. So I want to take this opportunity to thank some very special staff here at the Metropolitan Water District. Joe Chavez, Louis Romero, Irene Marquez, Vanessa Navoa, Oscar Yanez, Deborah Sass, Romeo Hogan, Kevin Mann, Andy Owl, Benita Horn, Brian Martz, and of course Yvette Martinez. Hoorah! So we want to put your hands together and thank staff to put this together. And at this time, there are commemorative coins for distribution, and you each will get a coin. They'll be at the desk in the back as you leave. And I want you to know that this will be a piece of field that you'll take with you forever. And it's an honor that you all were here today to join us. The commemorative coin from MD staff is just a beautiful coin, and you just will love it. Invited guests are to continue to mingle and enjoy yourself and eat the food and drink the wine. And we're going to enjoy the rest of the afternoon with this great trio, the Jack Keller Group. Thank you for the music. I enjoy it so much, being somewhat of a musician myself. So with that, thank you all for coming. Congratulations, Phil Pace and family. Thank you, Gina and John. Great, great day. Thank you. Thank you.